This girl has an unusual ability. The moment she looks into someone's eyes, she can hear their minds. Her name is Ina, and she comes from an ancient bloodline where every generation is born with a different supernatural power. Her grandmother, Ms. Bach, can see the future through her dreams. Her aunt, Dahi, has the ability to fly, and her father, Guiju, can travel back to a happy moment from his past simply by closing his eyes and remembering it. But now, they all suffer from the modern lifestyle diseases and have lost their powers. Ms. Bach now suffers from insomnia and can no longer dream. Dong-hee gains too much weight to fly, and after losing his wife, Guiju falls into deep depression, unable to feel happiness in any of his memories. One day, Ms. Bach takes the whole family to a cliff, urging them to use their powers again, but no one succeeds. In despair, she shouts, "The Bach family is doomed unless we recover what we've lost." Just then, a loud splash breaks the silence. The drunken Guiju has fallen into the sea. A young woman immediately dives in and pulls him back to shore. After CPR, Guiju slowly regains consciousness. Mistaking her for his late wife, he hugs her tightly, then faints again. Later, Guiju is taken to the hospital, but fortunately, he's fine. A few days later, Ms. Bach visits her usual luxury spa. None of the therapists want to serve this picky client, but anyone who can massage her to sleep earns a 1,000,000 won tip. But a new employee named Dahi accepts the challenge. Before starting, she prepares a cup of herbal tea that helps relieve insomnia. For some reason, Ms. Bach actually tries it. Then, under Dahi's skilled hands, she slowly drifts into deep sleep. When she wakes up, she can't believe that 3 whole hours have passed. What surprises her even more is that Dahi turns out to be the woman who saved her son. Ms. Bach immediately takes out a large sum of cash and asks Dahi to come to her house for a massage. The next day, Dahi arrives at the Bach family's mansion right on time. The lavish decor and priceless antiques leave her stunned, except for Guiju's room, which is covered in empty bottles. He sees a note on his door warning him not to come out, but he ignores it and heads to the kitchen for more alcohol. Just then, Dahi walks in and offers to help, but he coldly refuses. Unexpectedly, Dahi deliberately drops a wine bottle, pretending to panic as she cleans the mess. Ms. Bach happens to pass by and assumes Dahi just saved her son again. She thanks her repeatedly, while Guiju rolls his eyes and mocks, "You must be here to collect your reward." After saying that, he walks away coldly. Ms. Bach follows right after, scolding him for being rude. Once the kitchen's empty, Dahi quickly pours some sleeping pills into the tea. Suddenly, she senses a shadow flicker by. During the massage, Ms. Bach says Dahi's parents must be very proud to have such a great daughter. But Dahi calmly replies that they both passed away and she's all alone now. She goes on to say she's been married twice. Her first husband betrayed her, and the second one abused her. But she still longs for a happy family. Ms. Bach feels deep sympathy and says her son carries the same kind of pain. He lost his wife in an accident and still can't let go. She guesses that's just how dedicated he is to love. When the massage ends, Ms. Bach drinks the tea and drifts off to sleep, dreaming for the first time in years. In her dream, Dahi is wearing their family's ancestral ring. She truly believes that Dahi is the savior who's come to restore all of their powers. So on Ina's birthday, Ms. Bach officially invites Dahi. Dong-hee immediately sees through her intentions and sneers, "It seems you hit the jackpot." Only then does Guiju realize his mother is trying to set him up with Dahi. He warns her on the spot, saying his family is a mess, his teenage daughter is rebellious and impossible to handle, and his sister has been practically donating the family fortune to men. "Marry someone like me, and you'll just suffer," he says. Ms. Bach quickly drags him inside before he can say more. Feeling awkward, Dahi excuses herself to get some water, but accidentally walks in on Ms. Bach and Guiju's heated argument. It turns out today isn't just Ina's birthday. It's also her late mother's death anniversary. Guiju can't understand why his mother would invite another woman over on such a painful day. Ms. Bach explains that she wants him to move on and start living again. She even scolds him, saying, if you hadn't insisted on marrying Ina's mother, she'd still be alive. It's then revealed that Ms. Bach couldn't see a future for his marriage, but Guiju went ahead and got his wife pregnant. saying he would make his own fortune. Unbeknownst to them, Ina overhears everything. She's always known that her birth was the beginning of their misfortune. Heartbroken, she blows out her birthday candles and quietly goes upstairs. Guiju sighs and storms out of the house. Ms. Bach tries to follow him, but suddenly feels dizzy and nearly collapses. Before heading to the hospital, Mr. Gu asks Dahi to turn off the stove since he's been boiling seaweed soup, but for some reason Dahi is terrified of fire. She nervously approaches the stove, but dare not touch it. Just then, Ina walks in and turns off the burner, asking, "What were you putting in this one?" Turns out, she's the one who saw Dahi secretly pour something into the tea that day. Dahi quickly explains, that was licorice extract. It just makes the tea a little sweet. Suddenly, Ina's stomach growls, and she awkwardly retreats to her room. Dahi heats up the seaweed soup and rice in the microwave, and the smell draws Ina to the kitchen. Dahi takes a bite first, just to prove it's safe. Only then does Ina start eating. Realizing Dahi means no harm, Ina advises her not to get involved with their family. She even confides that while each of them has a superpower, they all suffer from modern lifestyle diseases. Dahi clearly doesn't believe her. She just smiles and compliments Ina's wild imagination. Meanwhile, Guiju pays respects to his late wife and then buys a birthday gift for his daughter. He's surprised to find that Dahi is still in his house. She explains that she just had dinner with Ina and learned their family's secret, that they all have superpowers. Guiju is stunned, and Dahi goes on to say that she knows he fell into the sea that day trying to save a little girl's stuffed toy. She reveals that someone once saved her life too, and that even when she feels like living has no meaning, she tries to be happy for her savior's sake. Dahi looks at Guiju and says, "You're just like him, someone who saves other people and helps them carry on." Her words move Guiju deeply, changing the way he sees her. But in truth, Dahi is a swindler. Her mother is still alive and runs a bathhouse. Dahi often teams up with her sister Grace to scam wealthy men, living off divorce settlements and so-called emotional damage compensation. Their next target is Guiju. Dahi tells her family that the Bach family has superpowers and guesses that Ms. Bach became rich because she can see the winning lottery numbers and stock charts in her dreams. Grace panics, suggesting they should report this family to Marvel. Everyone bursts into laughter, thinking it's absurd. Meanwhile, Guiju gathers the courage to give his daughter her birthday gift. Ina casually tosses the toy into a cabinet already overflowing with similar ones. The scene flashes back years earlier. Guiju once gave her a stuffed bunny, then went back to the past. At that moment, young Ina's eyes changed color, and a car crash followed. When Guiju returned, he was trapped and could only watch his wife die helplessly. As a boy, he once won a big prize at a snack stand but was harshly punished by his mother. She had warned him never to go near the stationery store because she had foreseen a car accident there. Suddenly, Guiju awakened his power. He could return to a happy moment. At first, he was thrilled, but he soon realized he couldn't touch anything in the past. When he saw his friend's dog got hit by a car, he tried again and again to stop it, but always failed. Only then did he understand that he couldn't change the past, and guilt consumed him. And once the happiness faded, he could never return to that moment again. Back in the present, he accidentally discovers that his daughter has thrown away all the toys he gave her. Realizing his gift was a failure, he heads to the mall to pick out another one. Dahi gets a tip from her uncle and rushes there to fake a coincidental encounter. She offers to help choose a gift, but gets turned down. As Guiju tries to leave, she grabs his arm, but her clothes accidentally get torn. Embarrassed, he flees to a nearby bar for a drink. Before long, Dahi shows up with a pair of shoes she picked out for Ina and insists he take them. Guiju throws down some cash, unwilling to owe her anything. Dahi sighs and drinks alone, realizing this target might be harder than she thought. Just then, a fire alarm goes off. People rush out in panic, but Dahi freezes in fear. As despair takes over, a hand suddenly reaches out and grabs hers. It's Guiju. Moments later, the broadcast announces there was no real fire. Dahi looks around, but Guiju's already gone, leaving her totally confused. At the same time, Ina notices a gift hanging on the door. When she opens it, she finds a pair of new shoes and can't hide her excitement. Seeing this, Guiju also smiles for the first time in a long while. A few days later, Ms. Bach invites Dahi to her gym and promises that if she agrees to marry Guiju, the entire building will belong to the two of them. Although Dahi is tempted, she restrains herself. She says honestly, "I don't marry for money. I just want to find a good husband." Just then, Dahi overhears their conversation and quickly pulls her mother aside. Dahi signals to her sister Grace to follow them. Dahi says that she's about to marry her boyfriend and demands that her mother give her the building instead, but Ms. Bach believes that the man is only after Dahi's money and doesn't truly love her. Furious, Dahi snaps back, saying Dahi is the real gold digger. She thinks everything is too suspicious. Dahi just saved Guiju's life, then somehow cured their mother's insomnia. Grace discreetly signals Dahi, warning her that the Bach family still doesn't fully trust her. Just then, Guiju walks into the gym. Dahi steps forward to thank him for holding her hand in that dangerous moment, but he doesn't understand what she's saying. Ms. Bach overhears and beams with joy, thinking their relationship has finally improved. Later at home, Dahi keeps wondering why Guiju denies holding her hand. He looked like he was drowning, desperately trying to grasp at straws. At school, Ina feels invisible, as if no one even notices her. Watching her classmates join different clubs, she longs to fit in, but never finds the courage to speak up. Her homeroom teacher calls Guiju, asking him to be more involved in his daughter's school life and to sign the papers the school sent home. Panicked, Guiju searches for the papers to sign, but his hand keeps trembling. He heads into the kitchen to get some alcohol, but Mr. Gu suddenly appears and invites him out for a drink together. When Guiju arrives at the restaurant, he realizes he's been tricked. Dahi is already waiting there. Ms. Bach quickly drags her husband away, giving the two some private time. Yet Guiju stays silent, drinking alone in frustration. Meanwhile, Dahi goes to the hospital to see her boyfriend Han, but hears a woman giggling inside the exam room. She bursts in angrily and finds Han chatting cheerfully with Grace. They explain they're only discussing a medical case, leaving her speechless. Dahi plans to move up the wedding date so they can claim the valuable building sooner. As expected, Han refuses. He insists he'll only marry her after repaying the money he borrowed to open his clinic. Dahi knows that's just an excuse. The real reason is her weight, so she decides to lose weight, hoping that'll make him love her again. As the treadmill speeds up, Dahi actually thinks her superpower is coming back, but soon she falls hard to the ground and breaks down in tears. Elsewhere, on her way home, Ina senses someone following her. She rushes into a ladies' room and frantically calls every family member for help. But Grandma is asleep, Grandpa is cleaning, and her aunt is lost in grief. With no other choice, she calls her dad. But Dahi answers the phone. Realizing Ina might be in danger, Dahi wakes Guiju at once. Though completely drunk, the moment he hears his daughter's name, he rushes out without hesitation. Because it's the first time Ina has ever called him. When he reaches the restroom, he spots a suspicious man nearby. In reality, it's Roy, Dahi's uncle, secretly watching over Ina. But Guiju mistakes him for a stalker and punches him, only to end up getting hurt himself. Under Dahi's hint, Roy pretends to fall and uses the chance to slip away. Just then, Ina hears her dad's voice and walks out of the restroom. Guiju tells her that he's already taken care of the stalker, but she has no idea what he's talking about. Sensing something's off, Dahi rushes to the convenience store to buy sanitary pads. Turns out, it's Ina's first period. Dahi gently wraps her jacket around the girl's waist and softly says, "Congratulations." Seeing this, Guiju feels guilty for neglecting his daughter and realizes she might really need a mom. Out of gratitude, he invites Dahi out for a drink. Dahi brings up the moment he gently held her hand, but Guiju still denies it. She guesses that it could be that he came from the future and held her hand. Guiju insists he never did, because even if he could go back in time, he still couldn't touch anything. But later at home, he can't stop wondering why Dahi lied so convincingly. Curious, he closes his eyes and suddenly finds himself back at the mall on that very day. As the fire alarm blares, he frantically searches for Dahi and finds her curled up in fear. He slowly approaches her, and to his shock, he actually holds her hand. To test if his power has returned, he closes his eyes again, trying to go back to the day of his wife's car accident. But when he opens them, he's back at the moment Dahi saves him at the beach. He tries once more, wanting to relive a moment with his daughter. This time, he does see Ina, but Dahi is there too, and she's always the only thing in color. Guiju storms into the spa and demands to know who Dahi really is. Breaking down, he yells, "Why can I only touch you? Why do I keep going back to you?" Dahi blushes and asks shyly, "Are you confessing to me right now?" Speechless, Guiju suspects Dahi of using magic to mess with his mind. Just then, Ms. Bach appears, claiming she knows the truth. She believes what Dahi has planted in Guiju's mind is love, and insists Dahi is the one destined to save their entire family. Ms. Bach then suggests Dahi quit her job and move in to help take care of Ina. But in truth, her real intention is to get Dahi and Guiju married. She even arranges a date for the two. Hiding in a corner, Guiju drifts back to the day Ina was born. It was supposed to be his happiest moment, but a tragedy ruined everything. That day, his captain volunteered to cover his shift so he could visit his newborn daughter. Soon after, all the firefighters were dispatched to a high school fire, where the captain lost his life. Haunted by guilt, Guiju kept trying to go back and saved him. But every time, only the hospital room door appeared in color. Everything else was gray, untouchable. He could only watch helplessly as the captain rushed into the flames. Guiju refused to give up, convinced that there must be another door he could open. So he kept returning to that day again and again, searching for an answer. For 7 long years. Eventually, Guiju broke down and quit his job as a firefighter. One day, the family visited the zoo together. His wife warned him not to disappear again, or she would take their daughter and leave for good. Before she finished, Guiju vanished. But this time, he didn't save anyone. He just wanted to return to his family. Tragically, their car fell off a cliff, killing his wife instantly. Remembering all this, Guiju quietly turns away, afraid of bringing more trouble into Dahi's life. The next day, Dahi shows up at the Bach family's house with her luggage and a bouquet of flowers. Ms. Bach assumes the flowers are for her, but Dahi explains that Guiju gave them to her during their date yesterday. Guiju quickly pulls her outside and demands to know why she's lying. Feeling wronged, Dahi insists, "You did give me flowers, and you hugged me so tightly." Seeing how serious she is, Guiju grows uneasy, wondering if it was his future self again. Meanwhile, Dahi is jolted awake by the doorbell. A real estate agent brings bad news. The apartment she's living in is about to be sold. Panicking, Dahi confronts her mother, only to learn she lost a fortune in stock trading and is now in financial trouble. Dahi secretly records their conversation and rushes to report the family's financial crisis to her team. That night, Dahi cooks a lavish dinner, but everyone turns her down, so she decides to start with Ina, who's eating instant noodles alone. She helps her shape her eyebrows and compliments her beautiful eyes. Suddenly, their eyes meet. Ina's eyes turn blue, and her power forces her to see Dahi's true motive, to take that valuable building. In fact, Ina has been hiding this mind-reading ability from everyone. That's why she always wears glasses. Dahi begins to suspect Ina can read minds, but quickly brushes off the thought as ridiculous. The next day, a girl notices Ina's new eyebrows and snatches off her glasses. As Ina panics, the boy she secretly likes picks up her glasses and gently hands them back. Their eyes meet, and she hears him think she looks pretty. At the gym, Dahi calls her boyfriend and invites him to dinner, but he coldly turns her down. Grace overhears and comes up with a plan. She flirts with Han on purpose, convinced that Dahi will dump him right then and there. But Dahi, though angry, simply walks away without a word, leaving Grace completely puzzled. In reality, Dahi has long grown used to being abandoned by men. Instead of clinging to him, Dahi calmly ends the relationship herself. Later that evening, Dahi once again prepares dinner. Suddenly, a tissue by the stove catches fire, and she panics, unsure what to do, until Guiju puts it out. He soon realizes that Dahi is terrified of fire. Later, while taking out the trash, Guiju spots someone selling bouquets, one of them identical to the one he gave Dahi. He picks it up, and in that instant, he goes back to the day of their date. He walks toward her, ready to turn her down, When a speeding motorcycle races past, he instinctively pulls Dahi into his arms, saving her from danger. Dahi blushes and then notices the surprise he's prepared. But the moment she takes the flowers, Guiju vanishes. Back in the present, he excitedly tells his father he just saved someone in the past. But strangely, he can only go back to moments when Dahi was there. Mr. Gu consults ancient texts and concludes that Guiju's power is far from whole and that Dahi holds a special connection to him. Meanwhile, Dahi, as usual, puts sleeping pills into the tea. Just then, Dahi drags in her suitcase and announces she's moving back in. As she grabs the teacup, Dahi quickly stops her. Dahi senses something off and asks Dahi if she put something strange in the tea. Hearing this, Dahi quickly drinks the entire cup and explains, "I just wanted to get you some hot tea." Soon, the sleeping pills start to work, and Dahi becomes drowsy. Just then, she notices Dahi sneaking upstairs and rummaging through valuables in the vault. Dahi secretly records the whole thing, but to her shock, Dahi suddenly floats in midair. She can't believe her eyes and rushes out, accidentally making a noise. Dahi turns around and spots one of Dahi's slippers left behind. In the hallway, Dahi bumps into Guiju. Before she can calm down, something even scarier happens. There's no reflection of Guiju in the mirror. Convinced that this house is haunted, Dahi runs downstairs in terror. But then, Guiju appears right in front of her again. Overwhelmed by fear and the effect of the pills, Dahi faints on the spot. The whole family looks confused, unsure of what she saw. Dahi explains she just lost a bit of weight, so her body floated slightly. She guesses Dahi probably saw that moment. Afterwards, Guiju takes Dahi back to her room, his heart filled with worry. Dahi, however, reveals that Dahi is simply asleep because she drank the tea meant for Ms. Bach, which contained sleeping pills. Ms. Bach doesn't believe her and accuses Dahi of lying because she's afraid that she'll lose the building to Guiju. That night, Ms. Bach falls asleep and dreams of Dahi being carried out of a sauna and sent to the hospital. She wakes up in shock, murmuring, "It was an ominous dream." The next morning, Dahi wakes up, still shaken by what happened the night before. She sneaks out of her room and runs into Guiju again in the hallway. But this time he does have a reflection in the mirror. Realizing she might have seen him there last night, Guiju tries to ask what happened. Just then, Ina is about to leave for school, and Dahi uses the excuse of making breakfast to avoid the question. Ms. Bach shows up and asks if Dahi often goes to the sauna. Dahi grows uneasy, starting to suspect that this family really has superpowers. Ms. Bach adds she dreamed of Dahi being carried out of the sauna and warns her to stay away from it for now. Kindly, Ina whispers to her, "Run away while you can." Those words wake Dahi up. She hurriedly packs her things and runs from the eerie house. But Guiju, watching from upstairs, secretly follows her all the way to the sauna. There, Dahi tries to convince her mother to give up the scam. Yet Hong insists, saying, it's delusion that runs in their family, not superpowers. She urges Dahi to marry Guiju right away and apply to become their legal guardian. Dahi wants to refuse, but Hong reminds her a ghost's money is still money and warns her not to forget she still owes her. It turns out Dahi isn't Hong's biological daughter. Years ago, her father died from heavy drinking. At his funeral, Hong showed up to collect his debts and forced Dahi to sign an insurance policy, naming herself as the beneficiary. Back to the present, Hong promises that once Dahi finishes this final con, she'll finally be free. Meanwhile, Guiju walks into the sauna and is spotted by Dahi's uncle. Roy tries to call Dahi to warn her, but her phone is locked in a cabinet. Guiju searches everywhere until he finally finds Dahi, but to his shock, she calls Hong Mom. He remembers clearly that Dahi once told him she had no family. Hong realizes the situation is turning bad and signals Roy to pull the fire alarm. Dahi panics again, curling up on the floor. Guiju tries to help her up, but the floor is too slippery. They both fall hard. Dahi passes out instantly and is rushed to the hospital by ambulance. Hong confesses to Guiju that she isn't Dahi's real mother. Years ago, a fire broke out at Dahi's high school. Unable to afford the hospital bills, Dahi was planning to leave the hospital. Feeling sorry for the girl, Hong decided to take her in, on the condition that Dahi would work for her to pay off the debt. Not long after, Dahi wakes up, and Hong rushes back to the sauna. Guiju signs her discharge papers as her legal guardian. On the way home, he admits that his family really does have superpowers, and explains that when he held her hand at the mall and showed up at the fountain with flowers, it was him from the future. Hearing this, Dahi finally understands why he kept disappearing, and why the mirror couldn't reflect his image. Back home, Ms. Bok scolds her son for revealing the family secret too soon. Guiju fires back, saying she never should have told Dahi about her precognitive dream. The scene flashes back to years ago, when Guiju was in agony over being unable to go back and save his wife. He found an ultrasound photo in her bag, confused why she hid it from him. Ms. Bok then told him a cruel truth. His wife betrayed him and was carrying another man's child. Back to the present, Ms. Bok warns Guiju not to repeat his past mistake of trying to save others. It will only end in vain, but Guiju ignores her. He's convinced that if he can save Dahi, he can save even more people. Returning to his room, he pours out all the liquor and decides to pull himself together. He uses his power to return to the sauna, trying to stop Dahi from falling, but accidentally enters the women's locker room instead. Overwhelmed, Guiju goes back to the present, standing under the cold shower to calm himself down. When he tries again, he suddenly finds himself in the hallway of his own house. At that moment, Dahi runs out terrified after seeing Dahi flying in the air. Just as she's about to fall, he catches her, exactly like the scene she once described. Guiju realizes it really has been his future self saving her all along. Looking at the soaking wet Guiju, Dahi guesses he just came back from the past. She quickly pulls out a marriage registration form, claiming it's a gift from the Guiju from the future. In truth, the form is fake. Dahi forged it to complete her mission as soon as possible. Guiju is skeptical. Something about it feels out of order. He says he can take responsibility for his past, but not for his future. When he tries to leave, Dahi stops him. Earlier, Hong told her that Guiju quit being a firefighter because he lost a close colleague in a fire. So Dahi reveals that when she was in high school, there was a fire and someone saved her life. She suspects that man was Guiju from the future. Even then, Guiju still thinks registering the marriage first doesn't seem right, because love has to come first. So he kisses her passionately. Suddenly, Dahi hears a noise outside and awkwardly runs away. Yet even after that, Guiju believes he can't just blindly follow what he thinks is the future. That night, he tries to sleep, but every time he closes his eyes, he's back at the moment of their kiss, and it drives him insane. The next day, Guiju calls Dahi outside and asks her to explain in detail how he saved her from that fire 13 years ago. Dahi doesn't want to talk about it, and quickly changes the subject, saying that since they've already kissed, they'll soon get married. Guiju tells her he only did it to see if he could feel anything, but it turns out he doesn't feel a thing for her. Dahi slaps him hard across the face and storms off in anger. Inside the vault, Ms. Bok is shocked to find her precious watch missing. She suspects Dahi of stealing it because she seems to be hiding something behind her back. During the argument, what Dahi is holding drops to the floor, and it's just a bag of snacks. They both then turn their suspicion toward Dahi, who's sneaking around Guiju's room. Dahi snatches the thing Dahi is hiding and is stunned to see it's a marriage registration form. Ms. Bok lights up with joy, exclaiming, "This is great news." Guiju, however, is puzzled as to why the form is in Dahi's hands. She explains that she saw it on the table and was going to hide it in case someone else noticed it. But Guiju clearly remembers putting the form inside the drawer the night before. He starts to suspect that Dahi is lying just so she can marry him. By now, Ms. Bok is already discussing wedding plans with her husband. Guiju suggests they meet Dahi's family first. Realizing she can't hide it any longer, Dahi confesses that she's the adopted daughter of the sauna owner. Ms. Bok gets a bad feeling and asks her husband to look into the adoptive mother's background. After some digging, Mr. Gu learns that Hong used to be a con artist and once ran a loan sharking business. Rumor even has it that anyone who didn't pay up wound up dead. He immediately calls his wife, but it's too late. Hong's already sitting in their living room. She complains that Dahi quit her job just to work as a maid for her fiancé's family. She's also heard that Ms. Bach was notoriously harsh toward her late daughter-in-law and never considered her part of the family until after she died. Ms. Bach fires back, saying she's also heard that Hong had an interesting past. To her surprise, Hong admits she's an ex-convict, but she's already decided to turn over a new leaf. She chose her current occupation to atone for her crimes by helping others get clean. Her words leave Ms. Bach even more confused, unsure whether to believe her or not. After walking Hong to the door, Dahi asks why she showed up so suddenly. Hong replies, "They were digging up dirt on me, so I had to get the drop on them." Just then, Ina comes home. Dahi notices that the shoes she's wearing are different from the ones she had on that morning, realizing she might have been bullied at school. The scene flashes back to Dahi's own high school days. A group of mean girls poured milk into her shoes, forcing her to walk home barefoot. Dahi goes to Ina's room and gently asks if something happened at school, but Ina refuses to say anything more. Later that day, Guiju finds Dahi again and asks about the fire that happened 13 years ago. He still refuses to believe that he was the one who saved her. Just as Dahi starts to get annoyed, Guiju suddenly disappears and goes back to the moment earlier that afternoon when she slapped him. He notices her shoelace is untied and her face looks sad. Realizing the fire must bring her pain, he gently kneels down and ties her shoe. Back in the present, he apologizes for making her remember that awful experience. The next day, Mr. Gu visits Guiju's room and encourages him to open up to Dahi. Guiju admits he's afraid of messing things up again, but Mr. Gu tells him he can always go back and fix his mistakes, because Dahi is special. Wanting to see if they really end up falling in love, Guiju returns to the moment they kissed. But this time, he accidentally catches Ina sneaking into the vault and stealing a watch, revealing she's the real culprit. Thinking she might be getting bullied, he rushes to her school to find out what's going on. Meanwhile, Dahi also visits the school to bring Ina a pair of shoes, only to learn that she's being treated like another girl's servant. A little later, she runs into Ina walking with her friend. To her shock, the girl is wearing Ina's shoes, and Ms. Bach's missing watch. Dahi pulls Ina aside and demands she tell the truth about whether that girl is bullying her or she'll report it to her dad. Ina snaps back, "If you tell him, I'll tell everyone you're a fraud." She takes off her glasses, stares straight into Dahi's eyes, and exposes her past. Her first marriage was revenge on her mother who abandoned her. The second was revenge on her alcoholic father, but now her feelings for Guiju are getting in the way. Stunned, Dahi quickly calls her uncle, saying they never should have gotten involved with the Bach family and that she got busted. Just then, Guiju spots her from afar. She runs in the opposite direction and hides in the school gym's storage room. A passing teacher unknowingly locks the door. Dahi tries to call for help, but her phone dies. She climbs up toward the window and falls hard to the ground, triggering a flashback. 13 years ago, several girls had locked her up. That day, the school caught fire. Everyone escaped, except her. As the smoke thickened, she screamed for help, but no one came. Just when she was about to give up, a shadow appeared through the smoke. Back in the present, Guiju bursts open the door and rescues her. Dahi breaks down in tears, confessing the trauma she's carried since that day. Guiju suddenly recalls that a group of girls once begged his captain to save someone trapped in the storage room and realizes Dahi was the very person his captain risked his life to save. Softly, he says, "It seems like I'll have to be the one to have saved you." Dahi remembers that her savior had a red spot on his neck, but Guiju doesn't. Later, she tells her uncle she's quitting the scam because she could get caught any moment. Roy insists she's just using that as an excuse because she's fallen for Guiju. Hong overhears them and walks in, asking how things are going. Dahi complains that ever since Hong showed up, Ms. Bach's attitude completely changed. She decides to handle things herself and tells them to stay out of it. Meanwhile, Guiju wants to know why his daughter stole the watch. Ina scolds him for showing up at school without permission and insists on talking to Dahi instead. When Guiju returns home, he finds Dahi's room empty and her phone turned off. Worried, he goes to the sauna again. With Roy's help, he finally finds her. Guiju asks Dahi to talk with Ina, but she coldly refuses and says it's over between them. She admits she's terrified of his family's superpowers and just wants to stay away from all of them. To win back Dahi's heart, Guiju pulls himself together. He cleans his room, works out, and even makes breakfast for his daughter. His family is shocked by the change. After Guiju's persistence, Dahi finally agrees to meet Ina. At the cafe, Ina demands to know what Dahi told her father. Dahi says nothing, and instead tells her to use her mind-reading ability. Ina replies she can't do it with her glasses on because she's severely nearsighted. Dahi then says she never told Guiju anything, and explains that he only came to school because he was worried about his daughter. Ina takes off her glasses and leans closer to confirm she isn't lying. Dahi tells her she's doing too much to please that girl, but Ina argues that this is just her way of making friends. Before leaving, she asks Dahi to keep their secret. Later, Dahi tells Guiju not to worry. She thinks Ina finally made her first friend, and she just wanted to do well. Then she adds, "You should try showing her a bit more love." Guiju says he doesn't know how to be a good father and asks Dahi to come home with him. Dahi firmly refuses. Since learning that Dahi's adoptive mother is an ex-convict, Ms. Bach's insomnia returns. She sends Dong-hee to the sauna to gather information, where Dong-hee accidentally spots Grace talking intimately with Hong. She rushes home and reports it, suspecting Grace and Dahi are working together. She believes they're afraid of losing the building, so Grace seduced her boyfriend on purpose. Ms. Bach blames herself for trusting Dahi too easily, but Guiju doesn't believe Dahi is a swindler. To prove she can help them regain their powers, he suddenly disappears. When he returns, he says he can only go back to moments he spent with Dahi, just like Ms. Bach can only dream about her. The next day, Mr. Gu takes Ms. Bach to the sauna and asks Hong not to break up the two who are truly in love. Hong can tell Ms. Bach doesn't want to be there and mocks that she's nothing like her clingy son. Ms. Bach storms into the kitchen and finds Guiju peeling garlic, almost fainting from anger. Hong sets up a resting spot for her. Though Ms. Bach complains the place is filthy and wants to leave, she soon falls asleep without realizing it. During dinner, Dahi grows uneasy, worried that Ms. Bach might see something in her dream. Sure enough, Ms. Bach wakes up in panic and quickly leaves the sauna, throwing everyone into confusion. Back home, she warns Guiju not to go there again, because she just saw how all of this ends. But Guiju refuses to listen and insists he's going to marry Dahi. Ms. Bach reluctantly agrees. After all, she did see their grand wedding in her dream. The next day, Guiju appears before Dahi with flowers and proposes. The Khan family celebrates the good news, but Dahi feels nothing but guilt because she has truly fallen for him. On the wedding day, Dong-hee sneaks into Dahi's room looking for proof that she's a fraud. As expected, she discovers their family's ring hidden in Dahi's luggage. Just as Dong-hee is about to expose her, Grace shows up and tries to stop her. During their struggle, Dong-hee falls from the second floor, but instead of hitting the ground, she floats mid-air. Grace freezes in shock. Meanwhile, Guiju walks Dahi down the aisle, holding her hand. He tells her this is the happiest moment of his life, but Dahi pulls her hand away and confesses the truth. She's a swindler, and he was her mother's third target. The suspicious guy in front of the ladies' room Ina is one of them. She then adds that she spiked Ms. Bach's tea with sleeping pills. Everyone except Ms. Bach is stunned by the truth. Guiju refuses to accept it and keeps returning to the moment they got married. He watches himself yelling at Dahi, asking if everything between them was fake, even the fire 13 years ago. Looking between the present Guiju and the one from the future, Dahi lies that it's her repertoire, because a pitiful high school girl who survived a fire melts hearts faster. Heartbroken, Guiju vanishes before her eyes and tears up their marriage registration form. Meanwhile, Hong demands to know why Dahi did what she did today. On top of that, it seemed like Ms. Bach knew that she would ruin the ceremony, which makes Hong start to believe they really do have superpowers. Dahi doesn't answer. She just says she doesn't want to keep scamming people anymore. Angry, Hong locks her up and forbids her from going out. From that day on, Guiju tries to erase every memory of Dahi, but he keeps returning to the sweetest moments they shared. The whole family's really worried about him now. At school, Ina accidentally finds out her only friend actually hates her. Unable to handle the truth, she runs out of the campus in a panic and almost gets hit by a car. Bystanders rush over to help, but she reads their minds, blaming her for not being careful. Ina helplessly covers her eyes. After calming herself down, she goes to the sauna alone. Hong offers her a drink and some boiled eggs, trying to find out whether her family truly has superpowers, but Ina just keeps her head down and says nothing. So Hong frees Dahi and orders her to use the girl to get proof that the Bok family has supernatural abilities. Then they can squeeze a lot more out of the family than planned. She warns Dahi this is her last chance to redeem herself. Dahi goes to Ina and asks why she's here. Ina looks into her eyes and realizes Dahi has been locked up. She explains she lost her glasses and accidentally saw other people's eyes, which scared her. She adds softly that Dahi is the only person she can look in the eyes without being afraid. Dahi is touched. She takes Ina to a store to get her a new pair of glasses, then calls Guiju to come pick her up. But Ina gets worried. She has just heard the old lady's thoughts and learned she's testing Dahi's loyalty. If Dahi just lets her go, she'll be in huge trouble. Just then, Guiju rushes in and yells at Dahi for kidnapping his daughter. Ina quickly defends her, saying Dahi isn't a bad person and she went to the sauna on her own. Guiju sends Ina to the car, then turns to tell Dahi he'll forget everything that ever happened between them. But when Dahi turns around, she sees another Guiju, the one from the future. He grabs her hand, urging her to stop the present self from leaving. Dahi refuses. Inside the car, Guiju senses something's off and realizes the person talking to Dahi might be his future self. Dahi tells him that Dong-hee is in danger and he must go to the gym right now. They hurry there, and sure enough, Dong-hee has fallen from a height. A few minutes earlier, Grace had wanted to test if Dong-hee could really fly, so she shut off every elevator and placed construction signs on the stairs. Dong-hee is in a hurry to attend a very important date, hesitating whether she should just fly down. But just as she climbs over the railing, Grace suddenly appears and pushes her off. Dong-hee spots Dahi lurking nearby and mistakenly thinks she's the one who did it before falling unconscious. Guiju, afraid she hit her head, rushes her to the hospital. After a checkup, the doctor concludes she fainted from extreme dieting. Nothing serious. When Dong-hee wakes up, the first thing she does is call her mom, claiming Dahi pushed her. Before she can say more, Guiju grabs the phone and explains what really happened. But what they don't know is that Roy is nearby, secretly overhearing everything. Soon after, Ms. Bok rushes to the hospital and slaps Dahi hard, warning her to stay away from her family. Ina quickly defends her, saying Dahi protected her and even saved her aunt's life. She also begs her father to save Dahi, because she might be locked up again, or worse. Out of curiosity, Guiju goes back to the wedding day and sees Hong slapping Dahi and dragging her into the car. Elsewhere, Hong demands to know why Dahi keeps the secret that only she can touch Guiju in the past. Before Dahi can answer, Guiju suddenly appears and makes a deal. He'll use his powers to help Hong get rich. On one condition, Dahi must stay by his side. The Khan family agrees to the deal, except Dahi. She can't accept being with someone who vanishes and reappears at random. She drags Guiju outside and demands to know what he really wants. Guiju looks at her and says softly, "I'm going to hold on to you." After saying that, he returns to the moment when he spoke harshly to Dahi and gently comforts her. Meanwhile, Hong questions Dahi again, asking why she always makes ridiculous choices. Dahi admits she has feelings for Guiju and doesn't want to keep lying to him anymore. But in the days that follow, Guiju won't stop following her, trying to win her back. To make him give up, Dahi decides to find her next scam target. She accidentally spills coffee, kneels down to clean the mess, and tells the man to be careful. The trick works again. The man is instantly charmed by her gentle demeanor. Watching this, Guiju realizes she had also broken that wine bottle on purpose. He walks up and introduces himself as Dahi's third husband, then drags her away and invites her to dinner. Dahi says that she might consider it if he pays her 10 million won per hour. Without hesitation, Guiju agrees and takes her to the small bar where they first drank together. Dahi tells him that if he's doing all this just to save her, he shouldn't bother. She stays with the people at the sauna because she benefits from it, and she'll leave them when she wants to. But Guiju doesn't believe she became a swindler by choice, because through their time together, he can feel how much she truly loves life. Dahi gets lost in her memories and says her biggest wish used to be just eating a bowl of old-fashioned shaved ice. Just as she finishes, Guiju suddenly vanishes, returning to the day of Dahi's father's funeral. There, Hong is forcing Dahi to sign an insurance policy. Guiju, heartbroken by her pain, approaches to comfort her. Sensing his kindness, Dahi finally breaks down and cries her heart out. At the same time, Mr. Gu is drinking with a pretty woman at a bar. The woman openly expresses her admiration for him, even resting her head on his shoulder. Suddenly, her husband storms in, grabs Mr. Gu by the collar, and threatens to sue him for harassing his wife. Mr. Gu panics and begs him not to make a scene, offering a large sum of money as compensation. Elsewhere, Guiju complains to Hong that Dahi keeps avoiding him. He says he can only return to moments filled with joy. So Hong orders Roy to follow them and help them spend some happy moments together. But no matter how romantic the atmosphere gets, neither of them feels truly happy. Suddenly, Guiju comes up with an idea. He takes Roy to Dahi's hometown and buys her favorite shaved ice. Later, he asks Roy to buy their return tickets and secretly writes down the winning lottery numbers. By the time Roy comes back, Guiju has already disappeared. He returns to the moment of his date with Dahi and hands her a bowl of shaved ice. Her face lights up with pure happiness. 13 years ago, she was so hungry she tried to steal some bread. An old lady saw it but didn't report her. Instead, she paid for the bread and treated her to shaved ice. That act of kindness stayed in Dahi's heart, and that's why she never forgets the taste. After saying that, Dahi mentions that she still has a ring in her luggage, the one her savior left her. She asks Guiju to return it to his family. Guiju nods, then hands her the week's winning numbers, telling her to use the 2.3 billion won prize to pay off her debts. Dahi buys a ticket with those numbers, and to her shock, she actually wins the 2.3 billion. Right then, Ms. Bach meets Dahi in private and hands her the keys to a sports car, hoping she'll stay away from Guiju. Unexpectedly, Dahi gives her the winning ticket and says, "Please tell your son not to bother me anymore." She's shocked that her son's powers are back, which means the family might finally rise again. Meanwhile, Mr. Gu sneaks into the vault to find something valuable to pay off his debts, but finds nothing. He walks into the bedroom and sees his wife asleep, holding the ring in one hand and the winning ticket in the other. Desperate to save himself, he steals the ticket. Just then, Guiju enters and asks where Dahi's luggage went. Mr. Gu claims he got rid of it because his wife didn't want to see it. He also mentions that Dong-hee found the family ring inside the suitcase. Guiju realizes something and rushes to the vault with the ring. Sure enough, the two rings are identical, which means the person who saved Dahi wasn't the captain, but him. He meets Dahi and asks if the ring came from her savior. Dahi nods. Guiju exhales in relief and whispers, "I think I'll have to save you." At the same time, Ms. Bach dreams of her son giving Dahi a ring during the fire. She wakes up terrified and warns him to stay away from Dahi. But Guiju hands her both rings and explains everything. He reassures her that the fire will be stopped and that both he and Dahi will be safe. Only then does Ms. Bach realize their fates were intertwined 13 years ago, and that they might actually get the Bach family back on its feet. Suddenly, she remembers the ticket and realizes it's gone. Meanwhile, Mr. Gu gives the ticket to the man who's been blackmailing him, thinking his troubles are over. But when he gets home, his wife receives photos of him getting close with another woman at a nightclub. It turns out the whole thing was a trap carefully set up by Hong. Mr. Gu tries to explain that woman was just his dance partner, but Ms. Bach doesn't believe him and yells that he betrayed her when she was at her lowest. Mr. Gu finally snaps, saying he's sick of keeping their secrets and living like her control. Crushed with disappointment, Ms. Bach orders him to pack up and leave the house immediately. Elsewhere, Dahi is shocked to find the winning lottery ticket in her foster mother's hand and realizes she's been hurting Guiju's family. Furious, she confesses that she only stayed with Hong out of pity, thinking it was sad she lost her daughter. But now she sees Hong always tries to walk all over her, so she decides to cut ties completely. Before leaving, Dahi warns her coldly, "Stay away from the Bok family, or I'll make your life miserable with everything you taught me." Afterward, Dahi tells Guiju everything Hong has done, saying he put his family in grave danger by trying to save her. She reveals Hong's real target is Ms. Bok, whose precognitive dreams can make her rich. While they're figuring out what to do, something terrible happens at school. Ina is bullied by mean girls who smash her glasses and lock her inside a storage room. Soon, Guiju gets a call from the teacher saying his daughter has gone missing. Dahi immediately asks her uncle for help, since he's been watching Ina for so long and knows her favorite spots. They search everywhere, but there's no sign of her. Right then, Dahi sees Guiju from the future, and he tells her Ina's been locked inside the gym. As the sky grows darker, Ina grows increasingly scared. She curls up helplessly in the corner, not knowing what to do. With the guard's help, Guiju finally opens the door and hugs his frail daughter tightly, filled with guilt and heartbreak. Later, Ina tells her dad she wants to drop out of school because there are too many eyes. While Guiju is still confused, she suddenly runs to the ladies' room. Dahi follows and finds her crying alone. Ina says she wants to fit in, but doesn't know why she's become like this. She says she'd rather be invisible again, like before. Dahi confides that she was once locked in a warehouse too, and later, there was a fire. Back then, she wanted to disappear quietly, but someone walked through the flames to find her. That's when she realized that even an invisible person can have color. She tells Ina not to fear hearing others' minds, because those voices mean nothing. Later, she advises Guiju not to ask anything, just to look into Ina's eyes. He brings his daughter favorite coffee, but she rejects it and it spills on the floor. Panicking, he takes off her glasses to wipe them, and in that moment, their eyes meet, and Ina reads his minds. He feels guilty for not being there for her and wants to make it up to her. He promises, "I'll do whatever it takes to find my way back to the moment you were born, because it was the best moment of my life." But Ina replies softly, "That should have been the worst." That's when Guiju finally realizes she's already awakened her power. He wants to know why she kept it secret. Ina breaks down, saying this ability hurt both him and Mom. Back then, in the car, little Ina accidentally met her mother's eyes and heard her blaming her for being born that day. Curious and scared, she asked, "Should I never have been born?" Her mom panicked and lost control of the car, causing the crash. Since then, Ina has believed her birth was a mistake that brings misfortune to everyone around her. Guiju hugs her tightly and says it's all his fault. He tells her that the moment she was born was the most meaningful moment of his entire life. Later on, Guiju thanks Dahi for what she's done. She suddenly mentions that when he came from the future, he looked a little sad. Before she can finish, Guiju vanishes. It turns out he finally returns to the moment his daughter is born, rediscovering the happiness he lost long ago. Back in the present, he shares that joy with Dahi and realizes that now it's time to save her using that happiness. He takes out 2 rings, slipping one onto his own finger and the other onto hers. He confesses that he has completely fallen in love with her, then kisses her deeply. Meanwhile, Ms. Bok jolts awake from a nightmare, screaming. She rushes into the nightclub, desperately searching for her husband, and tells him that Guiju is going to die. Soon after, Dahi officially visits the Bok family, and for the first time, everyone shares a meal together. Guiju feels overjoyed, as if he's living in a dream. But in truth, this whole thing was set up by everyone, just to make him happy. Earlier, Ms. Bok had already told Dahi about her precognitive dream. She saw Guiju returning to the fire 13 years ago to save Dahi, only to die there himself. Dahi wants to stop him, but Ms. Bok explains that she once tried to prevent her father's death and failed. So this time, she wants Guiju to live happily for the rest of his days, even if it means relying on a swindler. Then she asks Mr. Gu to play the role of a good father during this time. Once Guiju is gone, it's over between them. Finally, Ms. Bok warns her daughter to keep the secret and promises to give her the valuable building. Dahi breaks down, shouting, "Your dream is killing Guiju." The only one unaware of this tragic truth is Ina, still lost in the joy of her dad's love. Later that day, Guiju decides to go back to the moment of Ina's birth to save Dahi. But she stops him, saying she wants him to wait until they truly become a family. To give him more happy memories, she takes him to the beach. They laugh and talk about a movie, arguing over the color of the heroine's dress. When Guiju wants to look it up online, Dahi tells him to go back and see for himself. He happily agrees, but when he comes back, the car has crashed, and Dahi is gone. After a day of searching, police pull a jacket from the river, the same one Dahi had been wearing. Heartbroken, Guiju refuses to accept it. He storms into a sauna, angrily accusing Hong. "Did you do this to Dahi?" Hong denies it and fires back, asking why, with his powers, he couldn't stop the accident. In the days that follow, Guiju drowns his grief in alcohol once again, and his powers vanish just as before. For once, Ms. Bach seems different. She says she's no longer obsessed with regaining her power, and urges Guiju not to try to go back the past either. Inside the bridal shop, Dahi is trying on her wedding dress. She has finally lost weight and won her boyfriend's heart back. Han can't wait to get married, but Dahi wants to wait a bit longer because her brother's going through a lot. Meanwhile, Guiju goes to the junkyard, trying to find the wrecked car, but finds nothing. Ina encourages her dad to try going back to the past, while she recalls all the moments she made eye contact with Dahi, hoping to find some clues. Guiju closes his eyes and successfully appears in front of Dahi. He begs her not to go on the trip and never to drive, but when he returns to the present, nothing has changed. Then Ina suddenly remembers that Dahi seemed to be hiding something, as if she already knew the accident would happen. So Ina goes to Roy, trying to uncover the truth. Roy, however, puts on his sunglasses and refuses to say more. At that moment, Hong receives a traffic violation notice and confronts Roy about why he went to the beach. He says he felt uneasy after finishing the job, so he went for some air. Hong doesn't buy it and decides to go check the beach herself. Before she leaves, Ina presses Roy again. Is Dahi still alive? Roy says something harsh, but deliberately takes off his sunglasses and looks at her eyes. Ina rushes home, tells her dad about Dahi's whereabouts, and urges him to find her first. The scene flashes back to Dahi's conversation with Ms. Bach. Dahi couldn't accept that Guiju is going to die, so she decided to make him miserable, ensuring he loses his superpower once and for all. To carry out the plan, she asked her uncle for help. Roy, touched by their love, agreed to help her. On the day the two went to the beach, Dahi deliberately sent Guiju away and staged a fake car accident with Roy. Before leaving, she threw her jacket into the river and wished he all the misery in the world. Back in the present, Guiju finds Dahi first, but the moment she sees him, she panics and runs. He catches up and demands to know why she lied to him. With no other choice, Dahi reveals Ms. Bach's precognitive dream. Meanwhile, Ina excitedly tells her family that Dahi is still alive. Ms. Bach nearly faints at the terrible news. Sensing something's wrong, Ina takes off her glasses and looks into her grandmother's eyes. In disbelief, she asks, "Dad is going to die?" At the beach, Dahi says everything she did was to save his life, even if it meant living in endless pain. Guiju accuses her of being too cruel. He confesses that it's because of her that he got out of his depression and started living again. He adds softly, "I can't live without you." With that, he pulls her into his arms and expresses his love without restraint. Then, they spend a passionate and joyful time together by the sea. The next day, Guiju secretly meets with Hong. He says he's destined to die saving Dahi, so she decided to disappear to save him. Even so, he's ready to risk everything to save her. Before leaving, he warns Hong not to harm Dahi, or she'll pay a painful price. Later, the loving couple sits by the beach, sharing breakfast. Dahi looks at Guiju's neck and feels relieved to see there's no red spot. She tells him it's time to go home because his family must be worried. Indeed, Ina blames herself for ruining Dahi's plan and feels she's messed up everything. She avoids everyone's eyes and locks herself in her room. Later, Dahi approaches Guiju, wanting to talk. She opens up about how she ended up this way. Years ago, she was a rising supermodel, about to walk in a major fashion show. But Ms. Bach had a dream that Dahi would get hurt that day and forbade her to go. The organizers replaced her with another model, whose shoes didn't fit. The poor girl slipped off the stage, right in front of Dahi's eyes. That moment filled her with guilt and regret. Her dream of modeling shattered, and she began eating non-stop, gaining weight over time. Meanwhile, Ms. Bak thanks Dahi for her determination to save Guiju. Dahi mentions that the man who saved her had a red spot on his neck, but Guiju doesn't. So she asks Ms. Bak to look for more clues in her dreams. But Ms. Bak says her dreams were never precognitive, but a curse. Recently, she dreamt of Dahi fighting another woman in her bridal suite, and that woman turns out to be Han's lover. She doesn't know how to stop the wedding, because she's already destroyed her dream once. Dahi comforts her, promising to find a way to change things. The next day, Dahi secretly follows Han and takes photos of him with his lover. She threatens him, either buy all the photos for 200 million won or cancel the wedding and disappear. To her surprise, Han quickly gathers the money and hands it to her. With her plan failed, Grace volunteers to help because she can't stand to see Dong-hee heartbroken over that awful man. Grace brings Dong-hee to the apartment and catches Han with his lover red-handed. Panicking, Han drops to his knees and begs for forgiveness. But this time, Dong-hee insists on breaking up. She also cancels the apartment lease and demands that he repay the money she lent him to open the hospital. Just then, Dahi walks in and tells Dong-hee the money's already been returned. Realizing he's been tricked, Han lunges at her, trying to grab the cash. In the chaos, he accidentally pushes Grace out the window. Everyone freezes in shock. Even though Ms. Bak has forbidden Dong-hee from flying in front of others, she rushes out without hesitation and saves Grace. Seeing them both crying with relief, Dahi realizes there was more to it than Ms. Bak saw in her dream. She hurries to share the good news, telling Ms. Bak to keep dreaming. It's because of those precognitive dreams that they're able to prepare in advance and change the future. In truth, Hong also plays a part in all of this. Though she's hurt Dahi many times before, deep down, she already sees her as her own daughter. That's why she not only sends Grace to help Dahi, but also sets a trap that leaves Han buried in debt. Later, Hong meets with Ms. Bak to return the lottery ticket, saying it's her dowry for Dahi. Dahi confronts her foster mother, asking why she's doing all this. Hong admits that when she heard about Dahi's death, she was filled with regret. Now she just wants to make it up to her and hopes Dahi can live happily from now on. Tears well up in Dahi's eyes. It's the first time in years she's felt a mother's affection. Meanwhile, Guiju takes his daughter to the zoo to make up for the childhood regrets she once had. Holding cotton candy, Ina starts crying tears of joy. Guiju looks into her eyes and says sincerely, "The moment you were born is the best present I've ever gotten." Her heart finally heals, and she throws her arms around him, saying she actually likes lollipops more. Everything seems to be getting better, and Dahi is relieved to see there's no red spot on Guiju's neck. That day, as Ms. Bak is about to leave home, she hears a familiar melody. Mr. Gu seizes the moment and invites her to dance, reliving their younger days. From afar, Guiju watches his parents smiling and can't help but smile himself. Suddenly, he returns to his childhood and sees his parents dancing together. Everything around him is gray until suddenly a colorful little girl appears. It's young Dahi. He sees her friends making fun of her because she can't ride a bike, so he walks behind her and helps her keep her balance. In that moment, they both feel an overwhelming happiness, and the whole world suddenly turns colorful. A branch accidentally scratches his neck, but he doesn't pay attention to it. Only when he returns to the present does he notice the wound, the same red spot Dahi talked about. Holding back his sorrow, Guiju shares a warm family dinner. Later, he goes to a pharmacy to ask about the wound. The pharmacist says he's allergic to plants and says the mark will disappear within half a day to a week. That means he has to go back in time during this period to save Dahi. That night, Ms. Bak dreams again about the fire. When she wakes, she carefully describes every detail to Guiju. A clock falling from the wall, someone flailing in the air. Guiju goes to the fire station to check the records of that fire, but there's no report of anything appearing in the sky. Back home, Dahi notices he's wearing a turtleneck despite the heat. She secretly checks his neck and finds the red spot. Guiju begs her to keep it secret because tomorrow is Ina's dance recital and he doesn't want to ruin it. He lies, saying the mark will stay forever. Still, Dahi can't hold back her tears and hugs him tightly. The next morning, Ms. Bak wakes up with a terrible headache. She's had another nightmare. This time, she dreams of Dahi somehow flying during the recital. Mr. Gu advises everyone not to attend the performance today, but Dahi believes it's a chance to change the future. If she won't fly no matter what happens, it means Guiju will survive. As the family reaches Ina's school, they bump into Hong and her family who are also there to cheer for Ina. Soon, it's Ina's turn to perform. Guiju watches his confident, energetic daughter and feels nothing but pride and relief. At that moment, Han sends Dahi a photo of Ina and threatens her to come to the waiting room. Dahi rushes there, only to find that he's prepared a proposal. Han starts reading his love letter out loud, but Dahi is sickened and just wants to leave. He pulls out a bottle of gasoline and threatens to set the place on fire if she says no. Dahi is sure he won't do it, because he's a coward and doesn't have the guts. She even tells him to clean up the mess before he leaves. Meanwhile, Ms. Bach watches the dancers floating gracefully in the air. It looks exactly like the scene from her dream. She suddenly realizes that a fire is about to break out here. Mr. Gu quickly sounds the fire alarm and starts evacuating the audience. Han, trying to clean up the spilled gasoline, doesn't notice a candle catching a rag on fire. Flames spread instantly and chaos erupts. Worse, the fire shutter gets stuck and won't close. To protect everyone, Dahi has no choice but to fly into the air and pull the shutter down herself. Even though Dahi still fears fire, she runs backstage without hesitation and finds the nearly unconscious Ina. Just as they're about to escape, danger strikes again. Luckily, Guiju arrives in time and saves them. Seeing the clock on the wall, he realizes this is the very fire his mother saw in her dream. As the situation grows more dangerous, he urges Dahi to take Ina and leave, while he must go back 13 years to save her. Tears stream down Dahi's face as she carries Ina out, while Guiju returns to the moment his daughter was born. He silently thanks his late wife, then sprints toward the school where Dahi is trapped. Gradually, everything around him turns colorful, and he can finally touch everything. This time, he manages to call out to the captain, but the captain just smiles before heading back into the fire. Suddenly, the entrance collapses, and the captain dies in the fire. Guiju doesn't have time to grieve. He quickly grabs his firefighting gear and rushes to the storage room. There, Dahi has passed out from the smoke. He puts an oxygen mask on her and carries her out. As the flames spread, the exit gets blocked, forcing them to escape through a window. Guiju slips the ring onto Dahi's finger and tells her to hold on to it. Before they part, he says through tears, "This isn't the end, it's the beginning." Dahi falls from the window in confusion, while Guiju perishes in the blaze. Back in the present, Han is imprisoned for arson. Fortunately, no one got hurt in the incident, only Guiju mysteriously disappeared. 5 years later, Ms. Bach dreams that they'll be having a special guest today. Dahi curiously asks who it is, but Ms. Bach doesn't tell her. She just says, "We'll need another set of cutlery." Later, back in her room, Dahi discovers her son has the superpower to bring things back from the past. Overwhelmed with hope, she shows him a photo and asks if he can bring his dad back. The boy studies the picture carefully, then simply goes back to playing with his ball. Dahi smiles and gets up to leave. Suddenly, she hears a familiar voice behind her. It's Guiju.